We did it by ourselves. We built the first roughly 250 customers before our seed round. There was like 69% positive response. And I thought, like, how is this possible? I used to call him, yeah, that's the silverback. That's the one who needs to say yes. As a founder, you're always a little bit unsatisfied and driven, and I think that's what is needed. Hi, I'm Sander, one of the co-founders of PlanRadar. I'm sitting today in our headquarters in beautiful Vienna. If you ask me, like the most beautiful city of the world. About the people you can discuss, but at least the city, it's very beautiful. And yeah, I'm really happy that I got the possibility to share with you today, like all the things that I've learned, all the mistakes that I have done, and yeah, what drives me and PlanRadar. My career, I think it started very early. So already when I was a young boy, you know, I tried to earn a little bit of money. I was like collecting and selling golf balls or tennis balls, and somehow had like this entrepreneurial DNA, I would say. And also thinking about my family, you know, my father, he was an entrepreneur. My two grandfathers were entrepreneurs, my mother as well. So like we somehow have this DNA in our family, I would say. The business model behind selling tennis balls or golf balls is that when you are on the courts, they're always a little bit away from the shop. Like people are lazy, right? They don't want to go there and buy or do stuff like that. And if you are young and you're sitting there and you sell to them with a little bit of markup or profit, then they will do it. And you know, the selling golf balls thing was even better because I was running around with my cousins and just collecting all of the balls, because the people there, they not always hit in the right way, so there are a lot of balls around, and you could sell them for like 10 to 15 shillings, which is approximately like around €1, I would say nowadays. And I had a lot of cousins, so I sent everybody around, collect the balls, and then I placed the two youngest one at the first holes because they were very sweet, and then they sell all the balls. And I was doing like roughly €100 per day, and I was very young, so this was a really good business. Unfortunately, my aunts, they become mad because I only gave the others 10% and kept 90%. So I also learned very early that communism is not good. You know, when the first time I told my parents that I'm founding the first startup, they were very positive. They just said like, okay, what are you going to do? My father, he was challenging me a lot and asking the right questions. And I mean, like, yeah, it's like when you're coming from a demanding environment, it's getting a little bit of pushback. It's motivating, right? So, but in general, I think there was like no big concerns. Like, you know, they know me and they already understood that I want to go, or I will go in that direction. You know, the first real startup, I founded together with Ibrahim, who is also one of the co-founders here at PlanRadar. And the first thing we were doing was an e-procurement, e-tendering, e-sourcing platform. So it's basically in the era of procurement. And at that time, we called it like on-demand solution because it was online. The words like SaaS or stuff like that, it was not existing. So we basically created a platform where the cheapest supplier or the best supplier will get the order. So something like eBay, but with falling prices. And we were doing this not only for C goods, you know, like stuff where only the price depends, but also for like A and B goods, where a lot of different factors are important for decision making. And we build a system where we can measure the preferences of the procurement people and then automatically evaluate the incoming offers. And then the suppliers could optimize in a lot of different factors, not only price, also let's say quality, service levels, whatever. And so we created this kind of dynamic and automatic negotiations already, or pre-negotiations. And that was our first startup. It was completely different times because back in the days there was no VC capital or no business angels, at least not in Austria. And so we founded 2 other companies on the side to fund ourselves and to fund the software company. So we had a sales agency with like 70, 80 people just selling everything like B2B, B2C, door-to-door, on the phone, point of sales, like pretty much everything, right? This was very good for cash flow. And then we founded a software development agency as well, because on the one hand, we were developing our own stuff. On the other hand, we started to acquire software developers from Egypt, and so we had that source, and then we said like, okay, we could also do projects for other people or other companies. So that was an additional cash flow, and at that time also we developed or bought a content management system, which we sold. It's a company we sold and then we bought back, and now it's still there, and it's a content management system for the Rewe Group. So a lot of the websites from the Rewe Group is still on that product, although it's very old already. But I mean, what is important here is like, yes, we did a lot of different things. We learned a lot of different stuff, always driven, by cash flow and revenue. But at the same time, this was also distraction. Because if you're not focusing on one thing, it's always like harder to really grow and really drive that. And I see this challenge with a lot of entrepreneurs, because when you have this DNA, then you see a lot of opportunities, and sometimes you jump on a lot of opportunities, and sometimes it's even the harder thing, like to say, no, I'm not doing this, I will concentrate just on that one. In our first startup, we actually didn't say no at all. We always say yes, there's revenue, yes, let's take it. And then there was the problem, because our target was to build a product. Right? It's an e-procurement platform. That was our target. Then we had the first big customer coming in. It was OMV. It's something like Shell in oil and refining. And they said like, yeah, that's nice, but we need it a little bit like that and a little bit like that. So we ended up customizing the product for a lot of different customers or companies. And then the entire company ended up being a service company. And don't get me wrong, we were doing like good revenue, we were selling hours, but the product was not able to scale anymore. And this is also one thing, because like, let's say, all software founders, their target is like to find like the right product where you sell the revenues and you can basically earn money while sleeping, because the people, they will always pay the license fees, doesn't matter what you are doing. So this is where you need to go. And if it's a service business, yes, you can earn good money, but there are always the same problems like project risks and things like that. You need to interact, you need more people to scale and things like that. So for us, it was a very important learning that later on, or as an example at PlanRadar, we also had in the very beginning these big requests of big stock listed companies who said like, yes, it's good, but we need in addition this kind of service, this kind of customization. And we just said, no, we are not going to do that. And they were even surprised. They say like, look guys, price doesn't matter. You say what the costs are, but we need this. And then, you need that experience that you say like, no, I don't want that revenue. And the only reason why we did it is it's not because we are so smart, but because we experienced that error already in the past and how it limited the first company. The first time I heard about the idea for PlanRadar, it was like, I think in 14, something like that. And, there's a little bit of side story as well, because Ibrahim and me, with one of the previous companies, we've been also in Silicon Valley, and we met there Franz, who is one of the best friends of Domagoj, one of the other co-founders here at PlanRadar. And he introduced us to Domagoj back in Austria. And in small little Austria, there are not too many people who did already B2B SaaS. So we exchanged with Domagoj. He was the one having the idea, because working for more than 10 years as a site manager, as a construction manager, he really understood like, the pains and seeing every day like the inefficient way of tracking the information, having all this pen and paper driven stuff and things like that going on. And at the same time, the apps and smartphones and everything became popular. So he had the idea and was pitching to us and discussing with us. And the first time I heard it, I thought like, okay, this is nothing else than a ticketing system, right? We have this in IT since 20, 30 years, I don't know. I cannot believe there's nothing like that in construction real estate. And there was nothing. So we started to build it. We exchanged regularly with Domagoy and discussed that we should build MVP first. Let's find some tech guys. So he brought in Clemens, who is also from the same village. I think, by the way, it's a very innovative village with so many entrepreneurs. And yeah, Clemens came in, and then Konstantin, who was working at that time with Clemens at Pfizer, he came in as well. And then they built the first version. And then Ibrahim and me stepped in because we have been also in that period, you know, we sold one of the companies, and then you have like these 2 years where you're waiting and fighting for the second tranche. And then, yeah, the timing was good. So all of us went all in and we started to build the company. So with PlanRadar, you know, we focus one very important part of construction real estate. What we are doing is, like you can say on a high level, we are exchanging pen and paper and voice recording and photographs against mobile devices. That's on a high level. But when you look in detail, the things that we are changing is the entire approach, how people track information, how they create documentation, and how they communicate and collaborate between each other. Because, you know, when we started, the entire industry was like heavily driven by pen and paper. So, you know, 60 to 70% of the companies we're talking to, they were covering the processes or the use cases that we solve with pen and paper. As stupid as it sounds, just pen and paper. Even nowadays, as a side note, nowadays it's still like 50% plus, depending on the region where you're looking at. And so we went there and said, like, look, when you imagine how the process looks like, you know, the people have like these very big blueprints where they take notes, they take pictures, they do voice recording, then they build like an endless Excel list, which they share via email, and then nobody's looking at that. And you see the same thing every week. So we went there and said, like, look, we put all of this into an application. You have like your smartphone, your tablet, you have everything in your pocket all the time. Everybody's working on the same plan version, on the same level of information, and you can reduce a lot of mistakes, miscommunication, all of that. And it's clear that you optimize. So, you know, from this high level, it sounds really perfect and you can save a lot of money for the company. But for the users themselves, they say like, yeah, why should I do it? That was in the very beginning a question that we heard a lot. They say like, yeah, I don't believe in that. What's this strange internet thing? This will never work, stuff like that. And I even, you know, remember being in the sales pitches at that time. We did all of that by ourselves, like the 5 co-founders who are like, by the way, all of them, they are still on board after 10 years now. But at that time it was just 5 guys, and all of us, we were selling as well. So you are, you know, on the customer side, you're sitting in that room where you have like 4 or 5 construction guys listening to your pitch, and you always see like, yeah, there's that one guy who has like a bunch of experience and he's sitting like that and nodding all the time. And I used to call him, yeah, that's the silverback. That's the one who needs to say yes. And you can feel in the entire presentation about all the advantages that we create that he's not really into it. And then we had like this little trigger because when you know the process in construction, you understand that these project managers and quality managers, they are walking like the entire week, all the different sites. And then on Thursday evening and Friday, they are back in office, and then they start to type their reports and protocols. And it's a very annoying task. So we always showed like, look here, yeah, now you walk the sites, you track all the information, you create the tickets, and now you need to create your report. And here you just press this button and everything is done. And you, Mr. Schneider, what do you prefer on Friday afternoon? To drink beer with your colleagues or to do your reports? And then the answer is pretty obvious. Everybody prefers to drink a beer, of course. And then this was like the real magic. They said like, wow, this is great. It saves so much time. We need this. And so the trigger for them, it was just like create a PDF, which is maybe not a rocket science, right? But this was then the trigger out of all the things that we are doing and all the workflows that we are optimizing. These create the PDF, save the time for the user. This was the trigger for a lot of people in the very beginning. There are a lot of funny stories from the early days of PlanRadar. I mean, what I can share with you guys, like one that I like a lot. I mean, I don't know if it's that funny, but you know, we used to have, and we still have, like our founder sure fixes. Like every month, you know, the 5 founders are sitting together and discussing like the most important things, because everybody has his own area or department, and then we share and discuss and make strategic decisions. And you know, in the early days where we just started to hire the first employees, or let's say we are around, or we used to be around 40, 50 people. And then, you know, everybody in the office, they understood already when there was founder show fix, because then we are sitting together starting at 4, and then we start to scream. So in the entire office, the people were hearing us screaming, the founders, and discussing and fighting, and they know, it's founder show fix. And they even said it, again, it's founder show fix. And you know, we had, like, especially in the very beginning, there were always a lot of heated discussions and very heavy discussions as well. And afterwards, we were going for a beer together. And it was very easy, because you know, when you're fighting about things and discussing hard, then you always have to remember, like, okay, this person, he's just saying that because that's his opinion and he thinks that's the best way to do it for the company. It's not because he's stupid or an idiot, it's because he thinks that's the best to do for the company. And if you have this in mind, you can fight perfectly and scream at each other, and then afterwards go for a beer. And we had that base, so everybody was understanding, okay, we are all going for the same target, for the same direction. It doesn't matter how loud we are screaming against each other, and even if we use hard words, afterwards everything is gone. And that's like also one of the reasons why all of us are still here and why it's working that good, you know. And what is maybe even more funny, I remember the first time I went to Expo Real together with Domagoj, and you know, I was new to that industry, to like construction real estate. And the Expo Real, it's like the biggest real estate exhibition in Europe. There are like 70,000 people there. It's a few days, and it starts right after the Oktoberfest. So on the last day of Oktoberfest, all the real estate and construction people, they are at Oktoberfest. So you go there and you drink and you celebrate, and you're sitting already together with the people. So Domagoj and me, we were coming home at 6 a.m. after celebrating, and we had our first slot with the customer at 8 a.m. So like just 2 hours. So you can basically sit down a little bit, shower, and go to the exhibition. And we were both of us completely destroyed. And I was thinking, like, how can we talk to customers now? I mean, you could like see and smell that we were celebrating until 6 a.m. in the morning. And the first meeting was with a big stock listed company in Germany. And we were going there, sitting there, you know, at the exhibition, Domagoj and me, and two person from the company, and we're looking at each other from 8 a.m. and they were also completely fucked up. So all 4 of us were completely destroyed, and this secured somehow the situation, because then we said, like, who the hell made this appointment at 8 a.m. and and we had a good time together and even had the first beer together. And then they are customers since that time. Nowadays, one of our biggest customers even. I think all of us from the very beginning, we were sure that this is going to be a good company, that we are going to have success. Because I remember when we, you know, tried or test the market the first time, and we had like this product already, we had our beta customers, like, you know, we had like 40, 50 companies who were doing our beta with us. And then after the beta phase, nearly all of them stayed as customers. So we understood already that this is going to work out. But nevertheless, we said, like, okay, let's do now a broader market test. And we started to call like around 400 different companies in the construction industry, like cold, you know, via phone, cold, B2B. Construction, I think there are easier things than that. So we called the people, And I mean, not personally, we had like our SDRs supporting us there, because Ibrahim and me, we had this, history with the sales agency, so we understood how to set up campaigns and stuff like that. So, we were getting the results from these like calls to 400 different companies. And I remember it still today, like there was like 69% positive response. And I thought, like, how is this possible? There must be an error, because normally you have roughly around 10%. Let's put it like that. 10, 11 is good. So 69% positive response. That doesn't mean that 69% of the people buy, but it means like 69% of the people, they talk to you. They say they have no other solution in place, and they have this challenge. So very good. We even created then, out of this market survey, we created 11 or 12 customers. And that was the moment, or one of the first points, where I said, like, okay, the market is really there. There's an opportunity window. I mean, people are ready to talk to you. The channels are working as well, because, construction real estate guys, they are not used to being called and outbound contact, like, let's say, procurement guys or IT guys. So it's working for us. Let's do this. Another trigger was, I remember, we started in a German-speaking area, and we were setting up, of course, we have the website and everything, and then we set up also like the online payment system, everything, so that you can just visit the website and buy. And suddenly we had people from South Africa, from the UK, from Australia, signing up on the website, just swiping the credit card and start to work. And this was also a trigger, because, in the beginning, when you sell and when you talk to the people, you will be always able to sell, because they buy because of you. Because they trust you, and they talk to you, and that's the reason why they buy. And later on, of course, the product must perform, and you need to deliver results, but initially they buy because of you. And then, on the other hand, when you have people signing up, you never talk to them, you have never seen them, they just swipe the credit card and start to work. This is solely because of the product. And this is then like the real proof of market, because this means you can scale. And for us, it also showed that the problem that we are solving, it's an international one. So we should go really broad. And yeah, one other thing maybe I can also share in that relation. In the very beginning, we set our targets, and we had like a certain understanding. We start now, and all of us, we believe the company can get that big and that much revenue, that much value. Yes, we think that is possible. So, we started to push at the beginning of 17. And then in 19, we were there. We reached the target in 19. And then you could say like, wow, this is really successful now. But at the same time, if it would have stopped in 19, then all of us would have been very disappointed, because you see then, you really understand how big is the market, how big is the potential, and how much you can really scale. And so it's always like also about like changing your perspective on the journey, right? One of the reasons why we are also so successful is our business model, from my point of view. Because, against the odds, or against how a lot of other software companies are doing that, we are going bottoms up. So most of the companies in our category, they went like top down, selling big tickets to the decision makers, then push it through, and let's force the people to use it. And we had a different approach in two terms. On the one hand, we said like, okay, we don't want to sell project-based, we want to go user-based. So named user licenses, monthly and yearly licenses, doesn't matter how many projects you do. That was a difference. And then on the other hand, we were also going bottoms up. What does this mean? We were focusing on the user. So we always try, to land small, land and expand. So we basically build our champion, We have persons who started to use PlanRadar. Also the ACV or the cost for one license in the very early days, it started at like 25 euros per month. So it's nothing. You can even put it on your expense list. So we make the people start it, use it, love it, and then they were like our influencers, our champions inside of the companies. And then you have like this maverick buying thing, here a license, there a license, it's growing. And very often, even before like procurement or IT even recognized that we are there, we had already like 20, 30 users. And then you start, you know, these framework contract negotiations, which take time, like let's say 6 to 9 months. But in our case, then we have been already in cash flow, in traction. And yeah, on the other hand, if you go top down, it takes you maybe 1, maybe 2 years. You have a big ticket, but at the same time, you cannot be sure that after one period they still use you, because very often the users never start to use a system that the C-level decided to implement. So we were going bottoms up. And I mean, we are not the people who invented this approach. It's pretty much the Atlassian playbook, right? Like Jira and all the stuff was growing. And we adapted it for us and then went that direction. And for sure, this is one of the success factors for us. Also how we build the business model, because in our case, not all users are paying. In our case, only the user who is like actively setting up an information point or a task or a defect or whatever, and he's the paying one, he or she. And if he or she assigns it to another person who just reacts, this person is free of charge, or just watch, or something like that. So there are no entry barriers for other people. It works on any kind of mobile device and it's free of charge. Okay, let's try it out. And then the people get in touch with the system and they understand, hey, this makes sense. This is also good for my projects, for my tasks, for my team. And then they upgrade to full feature. And this was a way how we are growing inside of companies, but also inside of projects. Because when you look at a construction project, there are a lot of different stakeholders. Right? So I can tell you our numbers and our stats. Every project has in average 14 different companies. Of course, you have like smaller ones where there are maybe 2, 3, and you have the big ones where there are maybe 300. But in average, it's 14. And this was a very good way for us also like to scale and grow and make all of them our customers. So for us, it was like the most important thing is like easy to use, easy to learn. It must be very convenient. And we were telling people like, you know, you can use PlanRadar in self-service and you can onboard in less than 10 minutes. In less than 10 minutes, you can set up a project. You just drag and drop the blueprint, you add the emails of the stakeholders, and here we go. That's it. You just need the app, let's go. And you know, through that, you lower the entry barriers. Also, we said like, there are no costs. Just try it out. It's a 30-day full feature trial. Just try it out. And if it's not good, okay, don't use it. If it's good, buy it. Yeah, we can talk to each other. For all the others, you're afraid that the other guys are not using it. For them, it's even free of charge because they are just reacting. No cost, you can use it on any kind of mobile device. And that's important also on the construction side because not all of them have the newest iPhone or iPad. You know, the solution should work on any kind of cheap China device as well. And yeah, for us, this was, I would say, like the technical challenge because you know the blueprints, they are very huge files, so you need to work and transform them in a way so that they are scaling and the people are able to use them in a fast way on all kind of devices. So this was a challenging thing, but again, it goes down to convenience. Yeah, it must be easy and fast for the people, then they will be your customers. You know, when you look at the business model, I think there are a lot of different good business models, but there should be always the match to your ICP. Because the business model, it can work out, like how you charge the customers and everything, it can work out for you, it can work out for the company, but maybe it creates like a problem or a challenge for your ICP. And I think that's very important when you think about like the best way to charge the customers, to make it easy for them, to make it the most convenient way, because this will facilitate your sales cycle. And you know, for us, what worked really well was really this bottom-up thing. Nowadays, I'm not sure if right now, in 25, this is the right approach, because right now you need to focus a little bit more on the bigger customers, because they are doing better now compared to the SMEs, because we have tough times in construction real estate. So when you talk to the really big guys, you always need to do a little bit of top-down. But I mean, in general, I think when you can create a real value for the user and you can build your champions, I think this is always the right way, because this will have a very big influence on your retention, because when the people are your advocates and your champions, they will promote you. You don't need to sell by yourself, and they will fight against decisions of their own company if they try to push you out for any reason. Actually, we didn't ever discuss this business model with our VCs, because we in our history, we built first traction before we brought in the investors. So we had, at the time we did our seed, or let's call it later seed funding, we had already 500 or 600,000 euro ARR, which we built by ourselves, by cash flow and by our own money. And the only reason we brought in VC money was that we recognized, hey, the problem that we're solving, it's an international one, and there's this opportunity window, and you need to be fast. So if you want to do everything at the same time, you need more money. So we decided to bring in VC money. And the way I framed the entire fundraise was more or less that, like, look, this is working. We have traction, we have revenue, we are growing. The only question that is important is you put €1 here and you will have €10 here at the bottom. Do you like this? Yes or no? This is the only question. And due to the fact that we had that traction and that success, and we were also like not first-time founders, they had a lot of trust already in the business model that we had in place and still have. So yeah, we brought in VCs at a relatively late stage, and how we did it in the beginning, it was basically bootstrapping, right? Of course, we put in a little bit of our own money, and for us, then everything was about like revenue and cash flow. And due to our business model, where we have like monthly and yearly licenses, and more than 90% of the customers, they take yearly licenses, because then it's a little bit cheaper. But at the same time, if you take a yearly license, you need to down pay. That means we're always generating the cash flow, like for 1 year, having it at the very beginning, then spend it, and then of course you are forced to sell to new customers every month to keep like that motion, right? So this was the way how we were growing in the very beginning. And also, I mean, yeah, it was the 5 of us, it was office, then we started slowly to add people, so the costs were not that big in the beginning, because also we were not paying too much to ourselves. So it was just like this bootstrapping mentality. And I think this is also something that helps us a lot nowadays, because, since 22, the environment changed a lot. And especially when you raised a lot of money and money is cheap, you're used to spend money. And not a lot of founders experienced this bootstrapping thing, how you do that. So for us, it was also very important that we had other companies before, where we were just like managing cash flow, bootstrapping, thinking about every euro, because every single euro that you save in procurement or in sourcing goes 100% into your profit. So with that mentality and that DNA, then you can manage also crisis much better. And this was also something that was very surprising for our American investors, like how good we were managing cash flow. Because I remember, having the board meetings, and in 18, 19, 20, every time we are cash flow positive, I got complaints. We're leaving growth on the table. We are only growing like 10% month to month. Why not 14? And nowadays, the same people I get every time we are cash flow positive, there is applause, right? Because time changed. Not being a first-time founder makes a big difference, because you know, you have seen a lot of things already, you made already a lot of mistakes, and normally you should learn from that mistake. So I mean, everybody will do mistakes, it's just important that you learn from them. And when you're not a first-time founder, you have these learnings already. That also means like you are somehow more confident. You can go into, you know, discussions also with your investors, and you know, like basically how to react on things and how to stay like humble and calm, because yeah, there are always problems, but there are also always solutions. So I think it's also a personal thing. One of my direct reports, he told me once that like he cannot imagine a situation where I get out of my comfort zone. I would say at work that's 100% true, because you know, yeah, as said, there are challenges. There are always things that are not working out. But I mean, it will not bring you forward when you lose your mind. In the very beginning, all founders were doing sales. You know, we were 5 co-founders and all of us talk to customers. It's very important because you learn in the beginning what your customers need, what you need to tell them to make them buy, what are the challenges, what are the problems, and you need to understand and really master this before you can train other people or teach other people. And so we did it by ourselves. We built the first roughly 250 customers before our seed round, and then later on we started to add salespeople. If the founder is not able to sell the product, it must be really shit, because you as a founder, you should be able to sell everything, because people buy because of you, because they trust you, because yeah, just you as a person. So if you cannot sell it, and if you also cannot sell it to investors, then maybe you shouldn't do it. I think I am a good salesperson. You know, although I chair, I'm responsible for all of our operations, finance, investor relations, HR, and things like that. I still think I'm a good salesperson, a good networker, and basically all of our founders, they are good salespersons, because in the very beginning, you always need to do that. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're selling to customers or you're selling to investors. It's like the same mechanism, right? You build the pipe, you build relation, you exchange, and then finally you close. So yeah, you need to be a good salesperson as a founder, I think. The magic that every good salesperson need is like emotional intelligence. You need to understand your counterpart. So what are they looking for? That means you also need to listen. You need to be a good listener, and you need to understand what is driving them. And it's not too much about like pitching your own idea and what you can do for them. No, it's about understanding what they really need and how you can help them. And if you can transport this to your counterpart and also be able to understand what drives them, what is behind their positions, then you will be a very good salesperson, because then the people trust you, that you are saying things not only because you want to sell, no, you want to solve the problem. And this is a good solution, and then everybody can win. And yeah, if you are able to transport this, then you're a good salesperson. And I think it's also good to be a little bit offensive is the wrong word, but you don't need to be too shy. The first version of PlanRadar that we sold, like in the very beginning, that was like end of 14, beginning of 15. I mean, it was basically an MVP. So we just had like the possibility to like create a ticket for a defect where you in a very static way describe what you are tracking here, and you can add a picture and then assign it to somebody else to resolve it. So it was really pure MVP. And still we were able to, you know, convert more than 80% of our beta users into paying customers. Our first big customer was POR. I think it's even the oldest stock listed company in Austria, and it's one of the most successful construction companies in Europe. And they were our first big customers. Did we celebrate it? I would say not really. We were like entirely focused on, you know, delivery and go out there, build new customers. And I think the first really big celebration that we had was after our seed round. We had 250 customers already when we did our seed round back in the days. And that's a very good traction, especially for a startup in the very beginning. But for us, it was always like proof of concept, because as said, like you as a founder, you as a person, you can always sell. The real validation, the real proof of market for me were the customers that just signed up on our website, just swiped the credit card and started to work. We've never seen them, we never talked to them. They just became our customers because of the product. And this is real validation. I was very often surprised when I see in how many different ways our customers are using the product. You know, we put the customization thing on the user level, so they can design by themselves what kind of workflows they do, what kind of information they track, what kind of reporting. So they are very flexible. And then they started to do a lot of different things. So our first use case was in defect management, just in construction, in the niche. And nowadays we are on the entire building life cycle. And this is because of that, because the people started to do different things, the architects, the planners in the planning phase, the GCs, the subcontractors in the building phase, but also later on in the operation phase, the asset managers, the property managers, the facility managers, all of them are our customers, and all of them, they have different use cases, but they adapt by themselves, and that's the beauty of the system, and that's one of the reasons for our success. A lot of founders and startups, they are somehow afraid of sales. But I think it's one of the most important things, that you go out there, that you talk to the customers, that you learn. And yeah, it's a very nice idea that everything can work product-led, and you just set up the website and a few campaigns and all the customers will come by themselves. And this happens, but maybe 1 in a million. In the normal way, you need to do that sales, and you need to be the one out there talking to the customers, being on the events, and just sell the product. This is the way how it works, especially in B2B. We established the entire sales approach and our sales pattern by ourselves, and then, you know, when we were growing, we started to hire additional salespeople. These were actually the first hires in our company next to the founders. And we established a way in the very beginning, like also to identify the right salespeople for us. So until today, we have like an assessment where you can achieve around 39 points, and every applicant gets the same challenge. They should sell PlanRadar to us. So you find all the information on the website, make a sales pitch, and look at the product, and that's it. And then you have like the sales pitch. This is like second round or something like that. And then there will be 2 to 3 people listening to you, and each of the 2 to 3 people score you. And it's like there are around 20 different questions where you score the people, and there are different things like how they sell, how they talk. There are soft facts. There are even things like, okay, you ask them questions they simply cannot know. How is the person reacting? Is he or she just a cowboy just lying around, or is he or she just saying, sorry, I don't know that, I will get that information, I will come back to you. That's the right thing, right? Because you build trust. You must not know everything. The most important thing is to build trust. So we established a way first how we assess the people and understand if they are a good fit to us. Now with this system, nowadays we can even say, yeah, is this a junior, is this a senior, is this an executive, how much revenue can we expect, and so on. So it's very sophisticated. And then later on, we also have this entire onboarding program. So it's like around 3 months where we, share all the knowledge, where we let the new person start to sell, start to talk to customers, learn by doing, and then step by step they get fully productive. It was not like that from day one, of course. This is something that we developed over time, but also, as mentioned, Ibrahim and me, we used to have a sales agency back in the days before PlanRadar. So we have like already some kind of understanding and some kind of approach to the entire go-to-market things. When we hired our first salesperson, there were like 2 interesting things. First one, after the first, application process, we were able to choose between 2 persons. Like one was a young, skilled person, but without network and without experience in construction. And the other person was somebody with a established network, knowing the construction industry, worked already for another solution provider in that industry. So we had to make a decision between these two profiles. And we decided for the person with like these skills and ambition over the experience piece, because there was somehow a better fit. And this is one of the first things, like, okay, what is more important for you, like skills or network and experience? Normally, of course, you also have skills, but normally you need to focus on one of these, or one of these are stronger. And the other thing was like how we trained this first person. So we let him, join me, Ibrahim, Domagoy, watching our sales pitches, be together with us at the exhibitions, just learning our pattern and the way how we do it. And that person, he used to sell glasses to opticians, so something completely different to software construction, but he was a really good salesperson. So, he started closing deals even without understanding the product 100%. And at the end of the day, I think this learning by doing, it's a very good approach. Nowadays, we have a big organization. We have like 60 to 70 account executives. So at this size, you need to have a really structured process where it's clear at every step, like what are the requirements, what are the milestones, what will happen if this work out or not work out. At a certain size, you need all of this. In the very beginning, it can be more like this learning by doing and copying thing. What was special in our case is that we always tried to push also for the closing. Like, it's not that like, okay, you have discovery, you have qualifying, you send an offer, then you decide. I mean, we are selling our licenses also like on spot at exhibitions. People just coming by, seeing the solution, looking at it, and then signing the contract. This is possible with smaller deal sizes, right? So for some salespeople, this was completely new, that they even, push in the first meeting on a closed one. Trust is the most important thing, especially for a startup, because you don't have like a history of years and thousands of customers, which build trust for you as well. In the very beginning, you are the one who need to build the trust. You want the customer to be sure that he's not making a mistake by working with you. And only trust is the way to do that. And that's especially also the reason why I don't like bullshitting around in beginning, and some salespeople who are just telling everything to the customer just to make him or her sign. This is not sustainable, because not later than 1 year, they will not be your customer anymore, and they will not create good word of mouth as well. And also for you as a person, I mean, if the people can trust you and trust your word, and you have a good reputation, then you can grow and you can do a lot of different things. And it's not only related to the company where you're working at the moment, because your life normally is also longer. So yeah, if I say like people can trust my word and can trust me, this is not only for PlanRadar, this is also for me as a person. Doesn't matter what I'm doing. When your salespeople start to lead the conversation with customers, and you are becoming the one like sitting next to them and listening and just thinking, do I need to step in? And you recognize, no, I don't need to step in. They are doing this even better than me. Okay, then it's easy, to give responsibility away and say like, okay, let's scale, let's bring more people, let's share the knowledge between them. And when we started scaling in the beginning, we tried to create this kind of gold rush even, because we are paying like solid base, but very high commissions. So the people were able to earn like between 5 to 15% of the revenue that they are generating. And if you are a good seller, you can like triple or quadruple your base. And we had like this gold rush, and the guys, they were selling and earning like crazy. And I remember when one of our team leads, he bought like one of these fancy Mercedes SLR, whatever, with these flying doors, and this is the best thing that could happen because the entire sales team is standing outside of the office at the street looking at that car and just calculating in their head, how many licenses do I need to sell to buy a car like this? And then you get like this gold rush thing, and everybody's selling and driving and competition. Yeah, and this is, I also personally like this because this, you know, it's growth, it's driving, and nobody's looking at hours or like, let's say, yeah, I'm on holiday, the customer's calling, yeah, it doesn't matter if I'm on holiday or not, I close this deal. And yeah, let's say in 24, 25, it was now a little bit tough time for our sales guys because the industry is in the bottom cycle. But yeah, I feel already that things are slowly coming back. And maybe one good thing I also remember, it was in 19. We also, every year we have like some kind of sales competitions, stuff like President's Club or things like that, where the best sellers are promoted in front of the entire company. And in 19, we gave like very high targets, and then at the Christmas party, we made a present to all the sales guys who achieved that high targets. So we sent them to a weekend with Jordan Belfort, like the real Wolf of Wall Street, and to join, like, because he's doing like conferences and seminars and trainings. So we gave it as a present to them, a weekend with Jordan Belfort. We never had dark times at PlanRadar because somehow it was always going in the right direction. But of course there are pushbacks, you know, and challenges. And I remember also like one customer, you know, where we were creating the entire tender together with the customer. Everything was prepared for this deal. And then they shared a very strange contract with us. It was not dedicated to software as a service. It was simply a software development contract. And I refused to sign this contract. We had very hard negotiations, and I even remember I told the customer that nobody who read this contract will ever sign it. And then another solution provider signed the contract and became customer or served that customer. And you know, if maybe 1 or 2 years later, this company went bankrupt, and yeah, we tried to buy the assets. So we were even in front of the court and bidding with other companies for that assets. And during that process, I also exchanged with the general manager and the owners of that company. And talking about that customer, I even asked them, like, how were you able to sign this contract? And he said, yes, this was done via sales partner. We never read the contract, we just signed. And I said, like, this is exactly what I said to the customer as well. I'm very proud about the entire PlanRadar team, not only sales, but all departments, because, you know, sales is one thing where you know, close the customer, but then you need to deliver. So you need your tech team, your product team, you need your operations, customer success, you need the entire team to make your customer happy. And also this needs to work together, because let's say if sales are promising the wrong things that we cannot fulfill, it will not work out. So everybody needs to be aware what the customer needs and where we stand with the customer and what we need to do to make him happy. Then he will stay with us forever. And that's the target. When we enter a market, we first try to prepare the market with inside sales. So we start, you know, building the first customers, building the first references, calling up people. Sometimes you also have like existing customers who have like sites all over the world, let's say international companies. So these are the low-hanging fruit. So we build some kind of traction. And then when we kick off with the local people, they already have references, they already have like some customers, some traction, they can go to events and it's easier for them to sell. So also like, you know, opening a new country nowadays after opening 16, it's a well-known and step-by-step process that we established. We had like 2 inflection points in terms of our internationalization. So first point was like, you know, we were very well established in the German-speaking area. We had already customers, you know, via online channels all over the world. And then we said like, okay, now we want to really expand into other regions. So how should we do it? What is the best approach? And we discussed it a lot, and then decide to, like, let's first make some trials. So let's select one, let's say, prime region where digitization is already present, and it's a big region, it's an important region. So we choose UK. And let's take another region where digitization is not so far, where it's more like, you know, selling by education, not talking about features, but telling people what digitization can do for them. So this was Southeast Europe for us, like Croatia, Serbia, that region. And so we went into both countries, set up an entity in each of that countries, and started to apply our go-to-market pattern. And of course, there were a lot of learnings in the beginning, like, yeah, what do you need to change, how you need to adapt? But it turned out that it's working in both kind of regions. And then based on that learnings, we said, like, okay, let's now do the Series A, let's bring in more money to scale into more countries. And our target was to raise 12 million euro. We ended up raising 30 million euro because we had like a lot of very interested VCs, and we must expand the space, you know, to bring in that bigger guys. And yeah, our Series A was led by Insight Partners from New York. And yeah, then we took that money and set up sites in 12 different countries all over Europe. And also our approach there, it was a little bit different, because we decided we need to have like local entities, local people speaking the same language like the customers, sending offers in the same legal system, same taxation system, make it very convenient and easy for the customer to buy and to order. This is of course additional effort. So when you look at our G&A in the benchmark, it's a little bit higher than other companies, but this is helping in our sales approach. And looking back, this is also one of the reasons why, from my point of view, we are one of the few PropTechs or Contechs who really managed to go international and to scale international. And yeah, so we were, you know, our target was like to own Europe and grow in Europe. And then after that, we decided in 21, yeah, now we want to go global. So let's do the same thing, but globally. So we plan to set up an entity in US, Mexico, Brazil, UAE, Singapore, Australia. So let's say around the globe. So we raised our Series B, also led by Insight again. And yeah, this was end of 21, beginning of 22, focus fully top line growth. Then things changed a little bit in 22, so we also changed our strategy into efficient growth, but we kept to our decision that we want to go global. So despite everything that was going on, you know, a lot of startups cutting back their teams, cutting back costs, we said no, strategically this is the right thing to do. So yes, of course, we didn't push and double down with full speed, but we put people into the US step by step, also not all countries at the same time. We put people into UAE, GCC, Australia, Singapore, KL, and yeah, a little bit slower, but we did it. And also looking back at like both waves of going international, it also helped us a lot in the current situation, because when you think about the German-speaking area, it's hit the most out of all regions in terms of the financial or real estate crisis, or the crisis in our industry at the moment. And due to the fact that we are now, you know, we have customers and revenue all over the world, this helped us like somehow to wash this out. And like still looking at all of the regions, yeah, some of them they grow very fast, still like 60 to 80% year on year. Some of them grow a little bit slower, but altogether it works very well. Putting local entities into all of the regions, it's of course more complicated. Also, we had some discussions with our VCs, because this means like more cost. But we were sure that like in a traditional industry like ours, you know, you need to be with the people on the ground, speak their language, be in the network, send them offers in a way they understand, they know, send them offers based on terms of their countries, in their language. And this was our thesis, that if we do it that way, it will facilitate our sales cycles and it will help us really to land. So when we built our local entities and our regions, we decided in the beginning, okay, we need local people, maybe knowing how, things are working in that country. So we went in, let's say, France and Spain and Italy to find like good local people. And this worked out for us in some countries, in some not. So what we learned now is that the best way is like to send somebody from our existing management team who fully understands the pattern and fully understands how things are working at PlanRadar and who are the go-to persons. We sent somebody like that to a new region to build it and to build the local team. And it turned out that that's the most successful way for us. Every country has its own challenges because sometimes things are really different. I can give you one example. When you look as an example on the way how the companies look like in a German-speaking area, you will find out that like more than 80% of the companies, they have more than 20 people. So yes, you have like a certain amount of bigger companies. When you look as an example on France, you will find out that more than 80% of the companies have less than 20 people. It's a lot of very small companies. That means your go-to-market needs to be a little bit different. Also, another important thing is like how administration, governance, legal system, how does it look like in a country? And there are, I always thought that Austria is very complicated, but when you look into countries like Romania or Russia, we also used to have an office in Russia. We relocated our team to Dubai and also focus now on the Central Asia region, not Russia anymore. But when we used to have an office there, also very challenging. Like everything needs to be hard copy, strange regulations. Also, when you look into Mexico, if you want to found a company in Mexico, it will take you more than 1 year because they have very strange requirements in what kind of notary you use, what kind of rights are there by law for the government to step in or not step in. So very, very different regulations in all the different countries in the world. I remember a lot of cases where it really made the difference being local and being for, let's say, French customers, a French company, being for a Saudi customer, a Saudi company. And this is also like one of the examples, like especially in KSA, sometimes they require by law that you are local. And building a KSA entity is not that easy. So this is also a big advantage in that region. And then you can look at every country because basically everybody, let's say Austrians like to buy from Austrian companies, Germans like to buy from German companies, French from French and so on. It's always like that. Some countries worked better for us and some countries worked not that good for us. Like one example where it didn't work out that well is the Nordics. Because there were like two challenges for us. One challenge was that like all of the people, they expected like a kind of all-in fee in terms of project-based. So they were used very much to all-in project-based pricing, and our pricing model is user-based. So there were a lot of challenges in getting that customers. And the other thing there was that like the work attitude is completely different when you compare it to German-speaking areas, as an example. Because just thinking about summer, like from mid of June to mid of August, you cannot move a lot of things in the Nordics because it's midsummer, like everybody is on vacation, on holiday, and will work later on or next year or something like that. So yeah, there are changes. Other countries, they worked really well for us. There it was like just like, okay, this is exactly what we waited for, like Italy as an example. I learned also that there is no country in the world who has more architects compared to the population than Italy. Maybe not all of them are working as an architect, but a lot of people, they have like that knowledge and that relation. So Italy is working quite well for us. You know, when you have so many different regions or markets, you also somehow need to differentiate a little bit. Okay, what is the most important one in terms of prior? So for us, of course, it's like still Europe, also DACH. This is where our roots and which are like the most important markets for us. But next to that, it's also like the US and UAE GCC, because like UAE GCC at the moment, they are still growing. There's no crisis. And if you look at the US, it's also like a very huge strategic market. And our investors, they pushed us even at Series A. Okay, let's go to the US. And we said, no, we don't want to go to the US right now. We focus Europe. This was a discussion, but we said like we don't want to go too early to the US, because me personally, I saw too many startups fail because they tried too early, and then if it's not working out and their base is not strong enough, then it can kill them. And we said like first we want to build like a sustainable base, and then we will go to the US and try. And yeah, if it's not working out, if we lose a few millions, yes, it will not kill us. So we delayed US and started it with our Series B. We have now people on the ground in 16 different regions worldwide. So what we are currently focusing is like really growing in the existing regions. So we want to, grab market share everywhere, even in DACH. Even in DACH, we can still add a lot of customers, although we are there since nearly 10 years. And especially when you look at all the other countries like US, like Asia, a lot of things to do there. But right now we don't want to add like new regions. First we want to grow and be more established in all the existing ones, especially also because right now the market environment, it's challenging for our customers, but this will change at a certain point of time, because the markets are big, the demand is there's a huge backlog of projects, and sooner or later the flow will start again, and then it's also for us the right moment like to push harder, and then we maybe think also about additional regions, because there are still a lot of big things untouched, like China, like India, like Japan. So yeah, it's on our agenda, but it's not in the near time. The first time I felt that PlanRadar is really an international company was post-COVID, because we built all of our entities during COVID. So that means you see a lot of the people only online. Sometimes there were like, time frames where you were able to travel, but most of the time everything happened online. And after the COVID crisis, we decided to bring the entire company to a gathering to the Red Sea. So we had like 2 planes full of PlanRadarians from all over the world flying to the Red Sea, Hurghada. And then you are there and you see so many people in person, so many different languages. We had people from Australia, from Egypt, France, from everywhere in the world. And this was so amazing, like standing there, seeing all the different people, all the different faces, languages, and you realize, I mean, how could we have ever imagined being the 5 founders of us, and suddenly you have like nearly 500 people there. And this was crazy for me. We call like our team like the PlanRadar family. So of course, when you are that many people, it's hard to be that familiar with everybody, because like sometimes it's simply not possible. You see always a lot of new faces. But back in the days when we were like, let's say less than 100 people, yeah, you know everybody. You are very familiar with everybody. Everybody knows where to go, how the culture should be, like what are the targets. And then as soon as you grow, as you have more sites, it becomes more difficult to have everybody on the same page. So nowadays we have like 2 people who are just dedicated on internal communication, building the culture, sharing the values, making sure everybody's on the same page. And yeah, I would still call it like the PlanRadar family. And yeah, some family members, they're very close to me. I also see it, when they are newcomers, and yeah, we always try to be like very, open-minded, and sometimes they realize like that other employees, they are like very talk to me like very friend-like, and I see in their faces that they are like, okay, what is happening here? This is not normal. I cannot talk like this to the CEO. And yeah, at a certain point in time, they adapt as well. You know, the hardest thing about like building employees and having employees is of course that you need to delegate and give some responsibility away. Especially for founders, this is a challenge because you always have like your own requirements. You see your own 100%. This is the way how it should be. Maybe you are the only one who sees that 100%. Maybe for other people, like your 90% are already 100%. And you need to build that understanding, and you need to, you know, let also the other people make mistakes, which are maybe also only mistakes in your eyes. So, I mean, you need to get like this trade-off between, yeah, I have it perfectly exactly in the way how I want it, or I can scale and I have more people and I have a team, and that's the only way to grow. And yeah, it's a challenge for a lot of founders to get like somehow out of this founder mode. At the same time, even in the big organizations, it can be an advantage because sometimes you get back into founder mode when you recognize that something is not working the right way or not fast enough, and then you just step in and solve things. And yeah, I think sometimes this is a good thing, but it can also create a lot of, let's say, misunderstandings and challenges in a big organization. For us, we are most proud about like our team and how many people we have already. When you think about that, I mean, you compare like 5 co-founders and now around about 10 years, nearly 500 people. This is crazy. And then when you think about like behind each person, there's most of the times also a family, and all of these people, they are dependent to PlanRadar and to our success, and all of these people, they are looking in the same direction. And this is something that makes me really, really proud. I would do it the same way again. For sure I would do it. And yeah, as mentioned in the beginning, it's not our first startup, so we had already our learnings and also our fuck-ups in the past. And this is maybe one of the reasons why with PlanRadar everything is going that smooth, because we try not to make the same mistakes again. So yeah, for sure I would do it again. For a founder, sometimes it's very difficult, you know, to be proud of yourself because you're always driven. You always want to get more. And I think people also need a little bit of this feeling that they are not satisfied, because otherwise it will not drive you. On the other hand, I think it's also important that you know, have these moments where you look back and you say like, okay, we can be proud about what we have done. And yeah, sometimes, or for me, that happens especially when you see like on the company events, how big is the team, how much people are here, what are all the things happening already right now at PlanRadar, in all the different regions, in all the different languages. So that are the moments where I'm proud. But as said, like normally, like as a founder, you're always a little bit unsatisfied and driven, and I think that's what is needed.